a very powerful man. So I just look forward to all his knowledge and wisdom that he'll be spitting to us. My name is Dr. Sherelle Hobson. I'm one of your hosts here on the Black Podcast. I'm a student athlete resilience coach, an athletic program enthusiast, and an educational consultant. And I just really enjoy being a part and being very productive in the Black community. One of the things that one of the things that my passion is to help coaches to increase their matriculation within their athletic program for high school students. So it's important not only that these kids are involved in something, but that we prepare them and supply and provide them with tools that they can use to be successful for the rest of their lives. And so I'm just so proud of the programs that I have created to help coaches help athletes all over the world, in particular our Black males. I've had the pleasure of writing 2 books, Seams of Gold, Discovering Beauty and Brokenness, as well as Unleashing Your Full Potential. And those books really help us to provide us with tools to move throughout the journey. You know, life, we know that trials and tribulations come, but a lot of times during that journey, we don't want to be able to endure that process. And so that's what the books do. They help you to provide you with those tools to be able to move past that adversity and still move in your purpose. Me and Brian have a lot of different projects here, and our main focus is always on the Black community, and in particular, our Black males. And so we are just so excited to have the Black podcast as well as our special guest today and all the projects that he has.
Yes, typically we have our guests backstage before we get started. We're just so excited to speak with this gentleman, as his work, so much of his work aligns with what it is that we're doing. We don't want to waste the time, so just very briefly, as you all should know, I'm Brian Street, founder and CEO of Your Legacy Begins Now, where I decided to put together this social business that really brings the entrepreneurial work that I do to a connection with the good that I want to see in the community. Whenever I was working in Miami, I was seeing so many of our Black and brown youth that were aging out of the child welfare system and having kids that came into the system, or they themselves actually ending up in prison or ending up having their life taken. And I kept hearing the excuse that there was no money there to fund the services that they needed. So I was like, you know what, let me tap into this entrepreneurial space and start creating that revenue that is needed so that I can start with my partnership to be that funding source to go towards developing these programs to be that change in the community that I was seeking to see. I'm currently in a transitional phase, so where I'm really focusing on helping our community specifically to understand the importance of group economics, of supporting one another so that we allow that Black dollar to circulate in our community for a longer period of time so that we can do more and rise ourselves up in the socioeconomic, specifically in the economic status that we're living in. So without further ado, we have with us today Mr. Raymond Jetson. There's so much that we could say about him, but I want to hear from his mouth. So Dr. Hobson, let's get Mr. Raymond Jetson started off the right way. First off, welcome.
Welcome.
And really, like, just kind of give us a little bit of who is Mr. Raymond Jetson.
So I am a brother who has been immeasurably blessed, and believe that with that blessing comes responsibility. And so each day for me begins with asking the question, what am I going to do today that will matter 20 years from now? And that's the focus that I try to bring to life. I currently serve as the Chief Executive Catalyst at MetroMorphosis. MetroMorphosis is a local nonprofit based here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where we are focused on the transformation of inner city neighborhoods from within. We connect people and organizations in ways that we strategically support them to co-design the communities that they want to live in. And so our work is about how do we change systems and structures so that there are equitable opportunities for people who live in communities like the one I grew up in.
I'm so glad that you said that, the areas that you grew up in. If you can we know where you're at right now, but we know that it all starts from somewhere. And so if you can just give us, where you grew up, what that life was like for you, so that we can have a better understanding of where you're passionate from and where you currently are right now. So take us back all the way
So
back.
So I had the amazing pleasure and good fortune of growing up next door to my great grandmother and great grandfather. I grew up in the hood. I grew up on a dead end street. I didn't recognize as a child that it was a dead end street because the government had blocked off our end of the street to keep us from going into the neighborhood where white people lived. And so I grew up and down the street was family. We walked to school. I share with folks that I went to an all black child care, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school. I went to joined with 43 other little black kids in riding a bus to integrate a middle school in the 8th grade and realized that I'd had enough of that and went to an all black high school. I went to 2 HBCUs and so my background is steeped in our people and our culture. And my for me, life began with family, with the wisdom of my elders. In my study, I have a picture of my great grandmother and great grandfather that I look at each day just to be reminded of what they accomplished. These are two folks who, in the words of my childhood, wouldn't recognize their name if you wrote it in boxcar letters. But had unbelievable integrity, resilience, love, a sense of family, a sense of community. And so that's what's steeped in me. One of my earliest childhood memories was being uh, 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 disturbed in my sleep by hearing someone knocking on the door to our home real early in the night. And it was my great uncle. Uh, and he rushed into the house and closed the door. And I overheard him get on the phone and call what I would later understand to be the chief of police and say to him that, I have asked you to stop these officers from coming back and abusing black women in our neighborhood. He didn't use the word black in the 60s, women in our neighborhood. And if they say that they were not here, ask them why is the back window of their car broken out. And so my great uncle, in an attempt to stop white police officers from misusing black women in our neighborhood, had thrown a brick through the back of their window and rushed to our house to call the chief of police. And that was one of my earliest memories, and I grew up wondering why was he so interested in the community? Why would he put his life in jeopardy? Why would he go through all of this? Well, I would later learn that my great uncle was a civil rights activist. The main thoroughfare in that neighborhood that I grew up in is now named after him, Gus Young Avenue. He passed that legacy on to my father. My father was a meat cutter who hit the political lottery and supported the right candidate and was rewarded with an opportunity to serve in the corrections system on the pardon board and parole board. And for him, it became a mission to help black men largely get a second chance at life. He worked in our community. He was the guy that if people had a problem, they would go meet with Louis Jetson. And he would tap into his resources and his network of relationships. And so I grew up in an environment where you served others and family mattered and community mattered. And that still shapes me today. It's why I do what I do.
Wow, wow. I mean, when you look at like just how passionate people were, just your family in particular, and how much they were involved in the community, um, where we're at right now, do you feel like we're still there? And if not, what happened? Like in your journey of just being so involved, do you feel like we've dropped that ball when it comes to the importance of our community, family? Do you feel like we're still there? Do you feel like there's been a drop? I mean, because I don't know.
So I feel as though um, so many of the institutions and structures that nurtured me are today so very different and broken and damaged in so many ways. And so, for example, public education. I'm a product of public education. Dr. Hobson. I'm a former athlete. My life was shaped by teachers and principals and coaches who cared about me and who cared enough about me to challenge me, and in one instance even threaten my life if I didn't do what I needed to do. Uh, I had two high school coaches who told me I needed to come out to the track team to throw the shot put. Well, for me, football and the little basketball that I tried to play was enough. I was not interested in doing that. And they kept asking and kept asking. And I kept saying, yeah, I'll be there today, and not coming. And so they cornered me in the lunchroom one day. I saw one of them coming and I turned around and the other one was coming from behind. And they literally said things to me that today would get them fired.
And pretty
Uh,
much.
yeah, that I had to be at track practice. And I came to track practice. I started throwing the shot put. 4 years later, at LSU for the state high school track meet, I set a composite record in the shot put. And I stepped up on the stand to get my little trophy. And who is sitting on the front row but those two black men looking back at me like, and we had to threaten your life
Yeah, to almost kill you to
yeah,
get you on.
to get you here. To
So,
and so that kind of care and compassion is still present, but in small doses. It's not the overriding culture of the schools. I live in a community where the school system, 40,000 plus kids, 89% African American, another number of Hispanics and Orientals, and a small sliver of white students. Yet, when you look at the allocation of the resources, when you look at the African American kids, some terrible number of them, 40%, 50% of them, are attending schools where the performance is rated as a D or an F. The resource allocations are not equitable, and so that infrastructure is not as vibrant in shaping young lives as it was when I was there. I also grew up on that street that I grew up in. 4 doors down was the church. And I had a culture associated with that church. And interestingly enough, many years later, I would become the pastor of that church and serve as the pastor for 23 years. But that, I mean, I had people, I had to get up and give my poems, and I couldn't have a piece of paper. I had to memorize it. I had to do those things. I learned how to read better and other things in that culture. Well, now for so many young Black lives, church is irrelevant. It doesn't have meaning for their life. It doesn't intersect in ways that are meaningful and important to them. And so many churches who have resources to really touch the community are so introverted that they're inward facing, rather than recognizing that there's an obligation to the people who are around you. And then family. Uh, I would walk to high school, and this is not an exaggeration. I'd walk to high school each morning with 23 cousins. From ninth grade to 12th grade, I had 23 cousins at high school with me. We played sports together. We supported one another. We got in trouble together. And, and in so many ways, when you look at so many Black families, they are stressed and challenged in so many ways, and there's such a disconnect. And so I think that those institutions that have served us well uh, are damaged and broken in so many instances.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just listening to so much of what you're laying out right now, Dr. Hobson and I, literally the same exact things that you're touching on, we've been putting into documentation here over the last literally 24 to 36 hours to be able to get in front of individuals that see our passion in making a difference in that space so that we can go out and continue to touch lives and not allow that chasm to stay there and that next generation just be completely detached from the sacrifices that were made a couple generations before them. And, I watched the movie Selma, however many years back when it first came out, and I was in tears at the end of it because I was frustrated at the fact that all these men and women literally put their lives and like literally gave their lives, many of them, to give us the opportunity to be able to do some of the things that our counterparts have been doing for generations. Yet we sit up and we make excuse. Yet we sit up and we want to be part of, want to follow the Joneses, the Kardashians, whatever you want to call it. And we don't want to come together as a collective, understand, okay, yeah, we may look like each other, but you're from that side of town, I'm from this side of town. How can we come together, bring our resources together, and to bring our community together as a whole? I feel like that, how they say the whole crab in a bucket mentality. Like what are some of the activities that you do yourself and or that you advocate for through your organization or even through personal work that you aim to encourage that next generation, that you use to encourage that next generation to not just completely drop the ball?
Thank you so much, Brian. I want to share with you that I read something a few days ago, and it really just impacted me in an unbelievable way. And it said, while it may be true that crabs in the bucket pull each other down, it's important to note that buckets are not the natural habitats of crabs. Somebody has created that environment for them. And so it just might be possible that some of the behaviors that we see are the result of the environments that have been shaped around us, that we have been placed in. And that really gave me pause to reflect on it. I think that at MetroMorphosis, we talk about transforming communities from within. And inherent in that statement is this what we all say is that the change that is necessary to really bring thriving, vibrant, successful opportunity to inner city neighborhoods cannot be imported. It cannot be imported exclusively. You have to begin with recognizing, identifying, nurturing, and building upon the resources that are there. At MetroMorphosis, we operate from an asset-based perspective. We believe that there is a plethora of resources that are in inner city neighborhoods. It takes understanding them and repurposing them in ways and building collective opportunities to act, as well as connecting them with those systems and structures that are impacting their lives. And so, for example, in education, it's one thing to say to parents, you need to do a better job of making certain that your children succeed in school. It's another thing to put those community members with the people who are setting educational policy and educational decision making to understand how those systems are not working for those children. And so we believe that it is important to connect systems and structures and the lives of real people. so that we begin to recognize where there is a default. Now, that does not mean that there is not self-responsibility and that we have a responsibility to give our best effort to move ourselves, our family, and our communities forward. Uh, Children are absolutely critical. We have to invest in the well-being of our young people as they are coming along. But my last point is inherent, built into what you said, is this whole notion of sowing into the next generation. I describe myself as an elder in training. Uh,
Mhm.
I believe that we have to take back the word elder from the word elderly. And that we have to recognize that as a part of our culture and as a part of our community, we have benefited from the wisdom of the elders for generations. But that means that the elders have to be willing to share that wisdom and also be willing to learn. And so for me, MetroMorphosis has been this 10-year journey. I am at this point actually moving into the space of elders, and how do we create conversations about tapping into the value of the older community members, while at the same time saying to our older community members, you have an obligation to pass on to the next generation. The challenges that our young people are facing are not new.
Yeah.
We have experienced them, some more successfully than others. How can we help the energy of young people? You know, every social movement has been energized by young people, whether it was a civil rights movement. Young people drive social change and social movements, but their energy needs to be informed by the wisdom of the elders. And so helping the elders understand we have a responsibility to sow into the lives of others. February 14th, uh, 2021, by God's grace, if I am still here, I, along with 9,999 other people, will turn 65. I will be celebrating my 65th birthday on February 14th. And I, on that day, I'm going to be launching a personal website that is about this whole notion of elders and the importance of elders in our community. Because, and I'll wrap up with this. I tell folks, Dr. Hobson and Brother Street, that I am at the best stage I've ever been in life. I am old enough to have experienced some things, but still young enough to do something with it.
Absolutely. That's a blessing.
And it would be a huge tragedy for me to waste this season of life by not making a deposit that will make a difference in lives when I'm not even here anymore.
Mm.
Wow.
Can we drop the mic?
We can just log off right now. I mean, that is just amazing. First, you don't look 65, but we'll talk about that another time on a different show. But you know, I just want to kind of share with you, I've been in education for 15 years. And one of the reasons that I got into education was for those reasons. I said, man, this is my opportunity to change. I can be hands-on and I can have those conversations that you were talking about with your kids, that they had with you. And I realized very quickly that those days were over with having those relevant conversations. And the more that I felt like I was going and sinking into the system, the more I started becoming uninterested in what was going on, because I felt like I wasn't doing our kids I was doing them very an injustice by, not being able to speak the truth to them. And so when I had got a head coaching job, and when I took over the job, I had probably 85%, maybe 90% of them were Black girls, and then there was some Hispanics. And I made it a mission when I got there. These are the things that we're going to do. And I made those promises to the parents that I promise you that if you allow your daughter to be a part of my program, it will change her total life. And I will do anything that I need to do to get them to the next level. And that's what I did. Every year for 10 years, I had a 90% matriculation where I got these girls to college. And now they call me, they're lawyers and doctors, and I'm trying to borrow money from them. But, I'm like, hey, you remember that time I gave you a ride? But, I say all that to say that we have lost that in education right now. Right now, it's just a system. It's almost just like a business. It's no longer an educational, setting. It's just like, get here, watch the kids until the bell ring, send them on their way. If they pass, great. If they fail, they don't. But one thing that bothers me a lot is that the teachers that we need to be involved, they have ran them off, right? Or they're so burnt out from what the system has done. There's no real life or transformable, any kind of skills that these young men and women can use that's going to help them for the rest of their lives. So an example yesterday, was our Founders Day. So me and two other teachers, we were, wearing all our Delta gear, and we were coming to school, and we were excited. And I put it in there to make an announcement so they can announce it over the school that today was our Founders Day. And I felt like that was a perfect opportunity for young Black girls who are in this very predominant, my school is probably predominantly white, Asian, but you still have those kids that come from the inner city to our school. And I said, this is a perfect opportunity for them to ask questions, which is what the kids did in the hallway. Hey, coach, what does that mean? That's on your shirt, And I got an opportunity to explain to them what it meant to be a part of a sisterhood and go to college and be a part of an organization. But I say all that to say they didn't want to announce it. And I'm just thinking to myself, we're not doing our job as educators because we're not educating anybody. We're teaching, a system, and that system doesn't prepare them for life, doesn't prepare them for what they need to do to get to the next level. So it's such a blessing to see a young man like you that are building a platform for your peers to be more involved, because I believe even people like me, my age, I'll be 40, I seek those guidance. I seek, because I know whatever I can get, I can pass on, because they may not listen to you directly, but I know that if I can get some knowledge from you to pass on to them, they may listen to me a little bit more, because right now we live in a very shallow, world where the kids, if they don't see themselves in you, they don't really want to follow you. And so I'm just excited about what you're doing and how you're being so productive. What do you do when you're just like going, you're getting involved, you're pouring, you're sowing these seeds, and you get pushback? Do you get pushback from people? How has the support been for you moving forward with what you want to do with your organization? Do you feel like you've been supported? How has that journey been for you?
So that two things. First, to your comment about education and the realities of the system, I have an idea that I have been wrestling with that I'd love to explore with you. One of the things that we have in our community, and I see in a number of communities, are recreational leagues, recreational sports leagues, football leagues, basketball leagues that are not a part of school systems, but associated with recreational systems that have large numbers of Black children and Black families associated with them. I have been wrestling with the idea of what if we embedded a professional, a social worker, someone in that setting to help equip coaches to understand the opportunity that they have to pour into those lives, but also to begin to understand and to know the families and to help them attain their aspirations. So that's another show, as you said, that I'd really like to explore that with you. I always share with folks that any system that you think is broken is an illusion. There is no such thing as a broken system. It is performing exactly as it is intended for those who benefit from it being in that condition. And so sometimes the thing that we are trying to fix needs to be confronted. And that requires being strategic, because the first question that we have to ask ourselves is, so if this is really not broken, if it is performing in a way that benefits somebody, who's benefiting from this? Because if I try to change what you are benefiting from, I have just become a threat to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm not attentive to who I am posing a threat to, then in my practice of leadership or my practice of change, I get assassinated. Figuratively, and in some instances, literally, depending upon the degree of change. And so I think that we have to change our mindset and realize that this stuff ain't broken.
Hmm.
This stuff is functioning exactly as those who benefit from it intended for it to be. And we are going to have to be strategic about how we leverage the resources, the relationships, the networks, the law, policy to begin to challenge the constructs that just, please forgive my English, and I hope that my mom doesn't see this, but it ain't working. And it's not. I mean, in my community, I mean, for a number of years, the graduation rate for Black boys who made it to 9th grade was less than 50%. Now multiply that, expand that out over 10 years. And so is it any wonder that you see the realities that we see in the lives of young Black boys? They don't have any marketable skills. They've not been engaged in conflict resolution. They don't understand problem solving, critical thinking, in so many instances.
Communication, nothing.
Communication. But we want to beat up on them. We want to talk about how bad they are. No. We are pointing the finger at the wrong people. They are a product of the environments and the structures that are around them.
Man.
You know, lastly, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine once, and we were about 3 or 4 of us, and somebody made that comment about, man, we may have a whole lost generation. And one of the guys in the conversation made this statement. He said, normally when something gets lost, you go back to the person who had it last and ask them what they did with it. That shut the whole conversation down.
Man, that's real.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm listening to this gentleman on the other side of the screen, and I see me in 30 years. Like, I'm listening to what you're saying, and these are the things that Dr. Hobson and I talk about on the regular basis. And, I helped develop a mentoring program back in 2017. It was a 3-tier program, and I absolutely love how it worked, because the bottom tier was a group of 5th graders from 3 different counties in North Mississippi. The middle tier was a Mississippi Valley State men's basketball team. And then the top tier were the men in black and blue against prostate cancer. So there were seniors in the community. So we had seniors, we had college kids, and we had elementary school kids. The dynamic was spectacular, because these older gentlemen could pass down so much wisdom. These young kids can pass up so much new age knowledge and innovation, and just seeing that interaction, and having the basketball players that were right there in the middle that could somewhat understand the older gentlemen, but be able to repackage it for the kids. We need so much more of that. So I'm listening to you, and I'm trying to figure out, I need to go ahead and schedule a trip to Baton Rouge so we can start strategic planning.
I'm about to get in my car right now. But, like you said, and I think a lot of people have taken their stuff out of the equation. It's our responsibility.
Yes. Yes.
It's our responsibility. And so I work on a daily basis saying that, when I had that program, I used to get called in the office all the time. Well, Miss Hobson, are you talking about this? And at the time I wasn't Dr. Hobson, but it was, Miss Hobson, are you talking about that? Or Miss Hobson, I said, look, as long as I'm in this skin, in this body, I'm going to have these conversations. I said, because if I can teach them about life, I can teach them about track. And so because I built those relationships with those kids, I mean, it's just so, like you said, it's our responsibility. So many people, and me and Brian, we talk about, we have so many programs that we're going to be sharing with you once we log off, that we're going to be launching, that's going to blow your mind. So one thing that we do so much in our community is we do a lot of talking and not a lot of walking. It's easy to sit back and say, well, look at them. Look at his pants. Look at his shirt. He need to pull up his pants. She need to fix her hair. She need to stop talking so loud. Well, yeah, it could be, like you said, a product of their environment. It's what they're watching. It's what they see other people doing that told them that that's acceptable. I see girls come to school. The only 5 or 6 Black girls that may come to school, they got pajama pants on. They got bonnets on their head. It's my responsibility to remind them that those are clothes that you sleep in. Those are not clothes that you come to school in or that you leave outside your house. So like you said, it is our responsibility. And even if you can just change one, then that one change another one. But it's just not acceptable to have a 50% rate, and they celebrate about things like that. Oh, this year we got 52%. That's not good.
No,
That's not good.
but it goes back to something. And Brian, I was going to say what you described with those 3 tiers. What you actually had was not a mentoring program. You had a community.
That's true.
And that's where that's where the difference lies. And so the question becomes, how do we mobilize others, and how do we act strategically to make a difference? And it has to happen at every level. It has to happen with those teachers, those coaches who are seeing and touching these kids. But then there has to be those folks who are wrestling with the policies and the discipline practices and all of the disproportionate discipline practices and other things that are happening. Somebody else needs to be wrestling with that. One of the things that we do in Baton Rouge is we have an initiative with MetroMorphosis called Our Schools, Our Excellence, where we're working on a family school partnership. And so how do we equip family members to connect with schools? Because the first responsibility for the well-being of school kids is their families. And now that may mean a whole lot of different things, but that's where we have to equip and we have to strengthen. The dean of students when I grew up was my mama, and any old person who got wind that something was going on. But it was because they cared, and I was a part of a community. So it takes all of these components working together, and understanding your lane.
Mm.
None of us can do it all. Where do I fit in this? And who is it that I need to work with? We wrestle with violence in our community as in so many other communities. And I shared with someone. I'm not the brother at this point, at this stage in life. I'm not the brother who needs to walk on the block and try to talk to the young brothers. But what I do need to do is be a resource for the brother who can go do that. And I need to stand up and say that lived experience is a credential. And so if we are trying to reach brothers who are hanging on the block and who are involved in behaviors that we find questionable, then maybe the content expert is somebody who has been there and who has those experiences, and how can we support them in order to be those trusted messengers and to begin to do that work. I'll stop there, my friends.
Mm.
I'm telling you.
I wish I could talk to you for days. We can just leave you on the line, kidnap you, and just take all the little now. Your wife would be so upset. Where's my husband? We need to borrow him for a couple of years. Oh my gosh. I mean,
like I know she and we're communicating with looks at each other because you're saying things that literally we are typing less than 18 hours ago into these proposals because it's so real what we need in these communities. It's so real how we have to completely change the lens through which we look at so many of these issues, and just hearing it come out of your mouth, it just lights my
confirmation.
Soul.
Yeah. So let me encourage you guys in something though. As you are thinking about the change and the difference that you seek to make, I want to encourage you to not build everything to fix, to address what you see today, but to actually look down the road 5 years, and whatever element of our community's experience you want to touch, imagine, think about what will it be 5 years from now, and how can you build something that will be effective 5 years from now? Because the challenges we face don't wait for us to start our stuff. They are moving, they are maturing, they are morphing every day. And so how do we prepare for the inevitable change so that we are prepared for what's ahead of us? There are so many organizations in our communities who are still trying to fix yesterday's problems and refuse to accept that, man, we got a whole new thing before us today. We have something before us today that we've not seen before. And so what we did then isn't going to be effective now. And that process is going to keep evolving. And so as you are thinking, think not only about the issues that you are addressing in the present, but what might the future intervention look like?
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing that because, with us being researchers, it takes us really catching trends and looking at how things change over time to somewhat forecast what the future will look like. And there's so many people out there, especially those who are wanting to develop certain programs, for the optics, and they're not looking at the root because the root can eventually tell you what that next leaf is going to look like.
Exactly.
They're only looking at the leaves that are on the tree. And a mentor of mine once mentioned that you tell a true leader not by the number of apples on the tree, but the number of seeds in that apple. So we have to reverse engineer what we're seeing and understand that, yes, this may be what is happening today based off of this specific individual in this specific community, but he is connected with this individual, that individual. They may end up developing some type of relationship that spins off to this and affects this kid whenever he's born and he hits 6th grade. We have to see those things and then tie in the grand scope of the advancement in technology, innovation, and address it in that type of way. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Absolutely. And that's why we started the Black Podcast, because we wanted to build these relationships in the community with our guests so that when our opportunity presents itself, we have now these relationships to bring kids in front of people like yourself, or be able to pass down knowledge that we gain from you down to them. And so that's what it's about, is making sure that that we stay connected to those who are involved. And because we all have talents and gifts, it's just a matter of putting them together to make it work for us. And I'm just so grateful for you and what you're doing, and so excited to see all the new projects that you have. What can you leave us with? One thing how we can get started. Leave us with one nugget, and then where we can find you. If we need to get more information for people that may be in your area or your neighborhood that may want to join your organization or be a part of it, where can they find you? And leave us with one nugget, and then we'll put you back to the backstage.
So we're MetroMorphosis, MEtroMorphosis, MetroMorphosis.net. My email is Raymond@MetroMorphosis.net. And so we'd certainly love to hear from people. I enjoy the opportunity to connect with others and to share and to learn from others about what it is that they are doing. And so I have much respect and appreciate the platform that you are creating here. It is important and it is needful. The one nugget I guess that I would leave is that we are a people of community, and we need to understand the value of community and being able to work together and being able to recognize that at our best, with our most comprehensive efforts, we are only touching a piece of the realities that are faced by people in our communities. And so we need to look around and see who those other folks are and how we can connect with them and be a community, because a thing can't create community. Only a community can.
Yeah. We're going to have an encore or a few.
Yes, thank you so much for just accepting the invitation and just sharing your knowledge and just pouring into us and pouring into our audience. So we're just so very grateful for you, and we thank God for you.
Thank you.
Just thank you.
I am here. I look forward to connecting with you guys and learning more about your work. I pray just God's favor on your platform and the work that you are doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
We know you've got to run, so definitely we'll let you go, and we will be connecting and forming some type of partnership, something where we can continue to move forward with one another.
Absolutely.
It's called the community, my brother.
That's it. A real
We'll
community.
do it. Thank you, sir, so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I don't even know what else to say. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. We must share these videos. It is so important that we share. And like he said, it's our responsibility. And part of your responsibility is sharing. It's not sharing to make us popular. It's sharing knowledge. It's sharing, it's just sharing. Share the gift, share the knowledge, the wisdom that he's given us, that our guest has given us, because it's so relevant, not only for right now, but for later on as well. We, like he said, we're not just focused on where we're at right now. We need to focus on where we're going to be in 3 years and 4 years and 5 years from now. So it starts with doing the small things like sharing. Hey, this man has some very good knowledge. It takes 1-2 seconds to share videos. So start sharing the Black Podcast, because again, it's not about us. It's about our community. And as much information and resources that we can pour into our community, the better it will be. So, I mean, I don't even know what else to say after him. I mean, he was just amazing. So I just feel like getting in my car and going to Louisiana right now, because
I'm telling you, I am going to be biased because I have loved all of our other guests. They all have so much value and their own specific way, own specific space. But this gentleman is on the exact same wavelength that I am on, that we are on. So there was something different, special about this one. So I'm just so thankful that he took the time to give to us and share this wisdom. And he literally, before you came on, he was telling me that he actually lived like about a half a mile up the street from where I was spending the last 2 years at LSU. So yeah, I got to get back over there.
Yeah. Well, every Thursday we'll be here at 4 p.m. So please make sure you share the video. Again, we'll be reposting a lot of our videos. We'll be our platform will be on audio as well soon. So please look out to that. And I'm telling you, this is just a small portion of what the Black Podcast is about. You know, we have our own our business that we share together, HSBA, and we're going to be doing some great things, and we are already doing some great things. So please just make sure that you continue to support us. Send us emails. Go to our website. We are hsba.com, and please subscribe so that you can get the newsletter and see the different things that we have coming up very, very soon that you can be a part of. Because again, like he said, it's about building a community. We are the community. So please make sure that you go to our website, wearehsba.com, and see how you can help and be a part of our community so that we can build our community. So thank you again for joining the Black Podcast. I am Dr. Sherelle Hobson, and we have Mr.
Brian Street, guys. You know, I'm just tickled pink every single time we finish one of these. But guys, we shall see you next Thursday, same time, same place. Y'all stay safe out there. Have a wonderful remainder of your week. And like I said, see you next time.